Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into a really fascinating backyard experiment by an aquarist named Ang. It's this awesome blend of upcycling and biology, showing us exactly how we can bring vibrant, complex ecosystems right to our very own doorsteps simply by rethinking the materials we already have sitting around.
Seriously, have you ever looked at a discarded styrofoam box and thought, hey, I could build an entire living world in there? Well, that is exactly the premise we're exploring today. It's a brilliantly cool DIY solution for when you've completely run out of yard space, but you still really want to build a thriving aquatic ecosystem.
So, part 1, the foam box pond, or as I like to think of it, running out of room to grow.
Ang's whole premise here is simple, but honestly, so clever. They write, since I've quite a few unused EPS foam boxes, I might as well recycle them as outdoor fish ponds for cultivating aquatic plants and breeding fish. You know, running out of front yard space. Ang decided to just utilize the backyard balcony instead. It's a highly creative way to take a piece of what is essentially trash and transform it into a brand new, fully functional microclimate.
To actually build out this ecosystem, Ang outlines a really clear two-part procedural experiment. Step 1, evaluate the indirect sunlight using specific test plants. And step 2, introduce the fish gardeners to create a community. By starting with the flora and then carefully moving over to the fauna, Ang is taking a super structured approach to what is, at its core, backyard science.
That brings us to part 2, evaluating the sunlight, which is basically the great botanical test of this whole setup.
The entire foundation of this pond relies on one massive environmental variable, and that's light. A balcony inherently limits direct sun, right? So this sets up a fantastic biological challenge. Will this newly established balcony microclimate provide enough light energy to sustain aquatic life? That's the big, looming question driving this first phase.
And this setup brings us to a really fun, low-stakes conflict. Ang introduces some shade-tolerant plants, specifically duckweed and common-salvinia, which are fully expected to just thrive in this environment. But the real curiosity lies with the sun-loving plants introduced alongside them, water-hyacinth and water lettuce. Now, as we know, these guys typically require full direct sun exposure to survive.
The protocol for testing these sun-loving plants is incredibly straightforward. If the water-hyacinth or the water lettuce show any signs of wilting in that indirect light, well, the hypothesis is tested and they have to be immediately relocated to an area with at least some direct sunlight exposure. It's a simple, elegant test of biological adaptation.
All right, moving on to part 3, introducing the gardeners and building the fish community.
With the plant situation now actively being monitored, the project moves to step 2, which is adding the animal life. And what's absolutely crucial here is how Ang playfully anthropomorphizes the fish, calling them gardeners. They're introduced specifically to maintain and balance the foam box pond. They aren't just pretty pets to look at, they are an integral working part of this biological machine.
Based on Ang's direct experience, combining guppies and gouramis is the absolute ideal starting point for a harmonious aquatic community. It's a proven formula for a balanced tank. These fish are literally the frontline workers in this new ecosystem, naturally keeping things in check as the plants settle into their new lighting conditions.
Which leads us nicely into part 4, observing the microclimate and future ecosystem planning.
You see, setting up the pond is really just the beginning of the journey. The actual experiment lies in watching this new environment balance itself out over time. Depending on how this first batch of plants and our little fish gardeners react, Ang is already planning the next phase of biodiversity. Future additions to contemplate include bottom feeders and maybe even some snails. Adding those would introduce more complex layers to the food web and really assist with the waste management of the pond. Which leaves us with a really fascinating final thought. Will those sun-loving plants actually survive the balcony's shade without wilting? And how on earth will the new fish community adapt to their recycled foam home? We're left right in the middle of this backyard science experiment, wondering if this discarded box will truly become a self-sustaining world. It kind of makes you look at the unused containers around your own home a little differently, doesn't it? So what kind of microclimate could you build on your balcony today?